Hi, I'm Makena and welcome back to another episode of CrushedCinnamon episodes. Thank you for tuning in and thank you for all the feedback you keep giving for the episodes that have been before, past. Thank you so much. Just a little bit about this podcast. This podcast was created, I created it to examine relationships, or various kinds of relationships, because it's something I'm really fascinated about. Relationships between men and women, between fathers and their children, mothers and their children, the state and the citizen, workplace relationships, all sorts of relationships. And that's why I created this podcast. And I share stories and examples and information because I just want us all to have honest conversations and be more interrogative and more purposeful with our approach in life. So today I'm going to talk about something that's very sensitive, something that I'm still learning about. I'm still finding my feet around. This topic is also a very taboo subject in culture, really, in society to talk about. And in my culture, especially in the background I come from, I'm of African descent, we really don't talk about this topic. It's seen as something that we should be hush. It's not something we should even talk about, because I guess by talking about it we glorify it, and that's how people say it. So I'm going to give a disclaimer right now, because it might trigger some people or might be a bit difficult to listen to. So if you're not okay, this is the point to leave, because the topic, as the heading says, it's about suicide. So if it's not something you can handle at the moment, and that's okay, this is a point to stop this podcast. So I'll start with this topic, as I looked at some statistics, and actually in the UK in the year 2018, it's reported over 6,000 people died, and the cause was suicide. And apparently, according to statistics, there's been a rise in the UK by 10.9% of suicide. So this thing is not something we can sweep under the carpet. It's real. It's there with us. And I was reading also a WHO report saying that globally 800,000 people die yearly because of suicide. If you just think about it, that is just crazy. And the country where I was born, Kenya, there's an organization called Befriend Us, and the founder was talking about that every day 4 people in Kenya die because of suicide. And that's alarming, just worrying to say the least. And there are various causes of suicide. I mean, from society pressures, changes in lifestyle. If, for example, you are working and you lose your job, family breakdown, relationship breakdowns. So there's various things that cause suicide, and a lot of also being bullied, being fed the wrong information about you can also lead to suicidal thoughts and eventually suicide. So this topic takes me back to my mother had this cousin. I think it's her cousin, and this cousin had 3 children. So the youngest child had a birthday party. I can't remember how old he was turning, probably 13 or something. And also it was a coming of age party. Those who are from Kenya understand what that is. And I went to this party with my brothers and my parents, and I remember it was really beautiful, colorful. But for some reason I just felt everything was happening over there and I am here. I don't know why. I've always struggled with belonging, and this is where this story is about. The idea of belonging to something, to a group, to a cause, and we've been talking about social capital, and belonging is one of the elements there. I remember in high school we were taught about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and the feeling of belonging was up there, which was a very important need. And you can understand what I mean. As human beings, you want to feel you belong to something, to someone, to, somebody cares about you there. And why? Because, reggae artists have sung over and over again, no man is an island. So, you can't do life alone. And that brings me back to the story. So we went to this party and it was good. And I remember I sat, and this lady, who I later found out is the sister to this boy we went to the party to, started talking to me, and she's beautiful. She looked amazing. I mean, wow, she stood out. I kept looking at her the whole time. I was like, wow, if I grow up, I want to be, dressed and look amazing like her. She was also those type of people, from what I could tell, was not into drawing attention to herself. She spoke without words, basically. She just walked into a room and everybody noticed her. Just very graceful, that I can say. Her sister then, her older sister, was chief editor of a big magazine in Kenya, and she was the social butterfly, saying hello to everyone. And yeah, she was the one doing the most, basically. So this girl started talking to me. She was in her mid-20s from my judgment then. And we talked about various things, and she asked me what I'm interested in, which subjects, because then I was in primary school. Again, another primary school story. And it was really nice to talk to her. I felt like I've talked to another human being. I didn't feel like it was an adult and a child conversation, even though some of the things were asking me was really like, what subjects you're into. And then she started telling me things about life, and so, you're interested in this? Oh, that's good, because when you grow up, this and that, that kind of thing. And it was really good, because as I've said in other previous episodes, that I'm an only girl in my family of many boys, so I appreciated to have that kind of conversation. So I don't know how we got to this topic, but we got to a point where we talked about the cinemas, and she asked me if I've ever been to the cinemas, and I said no. And she was like, that's cool, I can take you to the cinemas. I was like, what? And I said, are you serious? It's like, yeah, I'll talk to your parents and we'll arrange a day where I can take you to the cinemas. People, I was excited. Oh my goodness, I am almost going into a Nigerian accent here. Yeah, but I was excited because I've always loved the arts. I've always loved the imaginative world of creating something and showcasing something. I've just loved it. And I remember asking my dad so many times if I can go to cinemas with even people, like with chaperones. My dad then was of the idea that everything evil happens in the cinemas, so there was no cinemas for me. So yeah, I was pretty excited that. And because she looked like those people who are, well-mannered and all this. So probably if she went to my dad and said, I would like to take your daughter to the cinemas, they'd agree. I had high hopes, literally. It was like the way you knew this year Liverpool is going to win the Champions League. It was that way. It was dead on the money. So the party ended and we went home, and she gave me a big hug before I left, and I felt, oh God, like everything was right in the world. And it was beautiful. I went home thinking about the whole conversation and meeting this lady. So a few days later, my mom, I see her talking with my dad. I couldn't hear what they were saying, but she looked really sad. So she came and told me, Makena, can I speak to you? There's something I want to tell you. And she broke the news then. She said, you remember that girl you met at the party, so and so? Unfortunately, she died. She died the day of the party, the evening of the party, after the party ended. And I was like, what? I was in so much shock. I couldn't understand. Did she fall? Was she run over? What happened? Did she had bad food? I couldn't understand. How could you just die? Because we came home, we were fine, we were okay. How is she dead? And my mom went on to say she died because of suicide. And back then, I didn't understand exactly what suicide was. I just knew I'll never see her again. And without seeing her, it means I'm not going to the cinemas. I felt crushed. I just felt this is another one adult I've connected with, and it was nice. And I don't know. I remember running out and went outside. We had an avocado tree, which gave me a lot of business back then. I was an entrepreneur when I was a child. I don't know what happened when I grew older, but that's a story for another day. And I sat there and I remember praying, because I'm a Christian, and asking God, why did this happen? Why did you allow me to connect with this girl only if you knew she was going to die, and all these things? I had so many questions, and I was like, what is this suicide thing? So I later found out that she'd written a note, and she listed why she took her own life and all these things. My parents didn't tell me what was in the note. I almost used to think maybe she wrote a note saying, Makena, I'm sorry, I'm not taking you to the cinemas. But I couldn't understand. I mean, this is someone I just met, and the day I met them, they decided you no longer want to be part of this world. I was like, I don't know, in my mind when I grew older, I was like, maybe I could have told her, is there anything I said to her that made her feel, I don't know. I had so many questions. And this is why I want to say, as a disclaimer, for those who have friends or relatives who've taken their lives, sometimes you take the blame. You're like, maybe if I did this, maybe if I did that. And sometimes I've come to realize through research that those people who have decided that this is the route they want to take, sometimes no amount of intervention can stop what they want to do, unfortunately. And it's difficult to deal with. It's just hard to see people give up. And there are various things that causes people to have suicidal thoughts. Mental health is one of them. There's many things that accompany that. That's a whole different can of worms, basically, for lack of a better word, to tackle. There's society pressures. There's all these pressures that women we face, to be married by this time, to be successful by this age, to have this by now, or whatever. And I wondered at first, what was it? I found out later that she had issues with belonging, felt that she didn't belong, and it's one of the huge factors that contributed to her to have suicidal thoughts, which led her to take her own life. So I want to urge you, for those who might have gone through this, if you're having suicidal thoughts, if you're struggling with belonging, if you're struggling to understand what fits in your world, please talk to somebody. Find someone you trust, and they can hear you out openly in your circle. If you can't find someone there, please, there are organizations. Like if you live in England, there's the Samaritans. They can help you. Please do not suffer in silence. And there's, I believe, and I don't want to say it in a very like utopia kind of way, but I believe there is hope. There is hope even in this time of pandemic. I know a lot of people, their mental health has been really crap. Basically, it has been horrible. and it's been messed about because of this pandemic situation, and many people have been furloughed, people have been retrenched, people have been reduced hours. There are people who are facing domestic abuse because of now they are always at home, their children going through abuse because of that. It's just a whole thing. The society just needs to heal. Honestly, I believe even as we fight this pandemic, which is I believe we'll conquer it. Society needs to heal of its social evils. We just need to find a way to be better. Honestly, we need to be better because we are losing a lot of people, a lot of skills, because we can't just be kind and loving to people. And it just boils down to that, and accepting people as they are. And if you're those type of people, bullies, or you think your opinion always counts, check yourself, because you don't know the damage you're causing on someone and the thoughts they might have because of what you say and how you treat them. Yeah. And if you belong to a group and they're putting you down and they are bullying you, they are not appreciating who you are, the fabulous person that you are, please leave that group. I know it's easier said than done, but you're worth more. And I want us as a people to be able to talk about these things. Let suicide stop being a taboo. Let's talk about it, because it's real, it's there, and there are people hurting and they need our help. Yeah, so that's the episode for today. It's a bit somber, it's a bit sad, but I felt it's something I need to talk about. So thank you for tuning in on this episode of CrushedCinnamon, and join us again on episode 4, where we'll talk about identity. And have a nice day. Thank you.